Good evening, and welcome once again to the Heart of the Witch's Path podcast. I'm Helen.
And I'm Kathy.
And today we're coming to you with a very special guest. I think that if you've listened to our first couple of podcasts, you've probably heard us talking about our dear friend and revered sister in the craft, Crystal, and she has agreed to come and record a podcast with us today. So, Crystal, why don't you say hello?
Hello, hello, hello.
Crystal is our Cajun girl, and you know how, I think we covered how we met Crystal in our first podcast, but today is all about Crystal.
Oh boy. Fun times.
So, Crystal, we've got some questions for you.
Okay.
But before we get into those questions, we always cover a correspondence in our issue or in our podcast. So why don't you tell us what today's correspondence is?
Okay. Today's correspondence is the herbal ally peppermint. Peppermint's gender is masculine in nature. Its planetary is Mercury or Venus, and its element is air. For magical attributes, it could be used for money, for healing, strength, power, luck, or travel. One of the most common uses is in the form of culinary, as drinking it in tea, or you can also use the essential oil in cooking. For myself, I have kidney disease and I have digestion issues. It actually helps cut my nausea out quite a bit.
How do you, in a tea form?
I do drink it in tea form, yes.
Okay.
I will brew it and steep it for a few minutes. And after I strain it, I actually like to cool it down in the refrigerator and drink it cold. The cooling effect for me is magnified by refrigerating it, because when I go through my medicine, I do a monthly injection to help with my kidney disease. It helps. The peppermint is cooling in nature, and when I get my medicine, I'm very hot just from head to toe. So it helps cool me off and battle the nausea away.
Interesting. All right. Awesome. Have you used it for any other medicinal purposes? Like before you found out about the kidney disease?
It's good to use in times of flu. The mint will help clear up your nasal passages, much like someone using Vicks, but it's more natural than using a chemical compound. It's good for headaches in place of aspirin, and it's also good for premenstrual cramping.
I should have been using that.
Yeah.
You should have told me that earlier today.
Sorry.
Now. All right. Kathy, do you have anything to add? I know you're kind of quiet.
I do not, although I do enjoy peppermint tea.
Okay.
Yes, I know you're into the... Do you use it for the same purposes, like a gastro thing?
No, actually, I tend to like chamomile better for my stomach, because I have stomach issues also. Nothing to do with kidney disease, but I get indigestion a lot, and chamomile for me seems to work a lot better, but I have used peppermint candies when I have nothing else. That helps.
Yeah.
And if you have that's why they offer peppermint at restaurants, because it helps you to digest your food.
Yep. And also, if you burn yourself too, using the essential oil will help ease the pain because of the cooling factors.
I will have to remember that the next time Randy burns himself and whines about it.
Excellent. Well, I think we covered that correspondence very well, ladies. Thank you very much.
More thoroughly than usual.
As usual, Crystal brings it to a whole new level. Thank you. Thank you. So let's launch into some of the questions that we have prepared for Crystal. Kathy, do you want to start this off?
Sure, let me start by asking, did you grow up in a religious household?
Oh, most definitely. I grew up Roman Catholic. Every Sunday we went to Mass. We sat in the church, and I also had to attend catechism class every Sunday. My grandparents were very religious. If you were caught talking in church, you'd get smacked.
Oh, so some strict Roman Catholic.
Yes. I can remember going during December for Christmas Mass at midnight, and it was completely in Latin.
Oh, wow.
Fun.
Yep. So being a child, trying to stay awake already at midnight
Right.
to something, a language you have no knowledge of.
Did your parents and your grandparents know what was being said?
Not sure. My grandmother probably knew, but she spoke very little English. She was primarily French influenced. She died when I was fairly young, so there's not a whole lot I remember of her, except she barely spoke English, which is where my Cajun French comes from. And Cajun French is not like French from France or our neighbors to the north of us from Canada. To them, I would sound extremely illiterate.
To speak that,
if I spoke
that
Cajun
dialect.
French, yes.
Oh, I love it. I love to hear you talk.
Well, I've lost a lot of my accent.
Yeah,
I
which
know.
is fun when you come back from visiting.
Yep. Some people say I recharge my batteries. So
Yeah, yeah. And I like it because you tend to slow my speech down, and I tend to take on a little bit of you when we talk. So Crystal, how did you find Wicca? How did you come to this religion?
For me, it was actually thanks to the entertainment industry, the movie industry, the film industry. When I was young, I remember seeing Clash of the Titans on the big screen.
That was an awesome movie. The original, not the remake.
The
original.
With Harry Hamlin, yes.
Yeah.
I was very intrigued by all these mythical creatures and gods and goddesses that had such power over the human race. I started researching and reading books about Greek and Roman mythology. Later on in my preteen years, I'm not exactly sure of my age, but around the 6th grade, I started watching a television series called Robin of Sherwood, and that was my first introduction to the god Hearn. And something about him just extremely fascinated me, and I have been a daughter of Hearn ever since. And I'm well and over 40 now. So it's been a number of decades that I've devoted myself to Hearn.
We were talking about these questions before we started recording, and I'll never forget what you said, because we covered you've got some goddesses in your wheelhouse, but I was like, so is there? And I should have known better when I was asking this question. I asked if there were any gods that you worked with, and Crystal says, I just can't get away from Hearn.
Something about that horn man. I just love him.
Yeah.
And you married a hunter. How did that work?
I grew up in a family of hunters, and I married a hunter. So it's definitely in my blood and my spirit.
So speaking of hunters, what goddesses do you work with?
I work primarily with Artemis. I also like Kuan Yin and Gaia. I also consider myself a harpy of faith, because I love Hera as well.
Those are some good goddesses to work with. Very much so.
I like Gaia.
I like them all.
Well, I like them all too, but Gaia speaks to me.
Don't make Hera mad. I like me some Hera.
No. So how would you identify yourself? Would you consider yourself a witch, a Wiccan, a pagan? Or is there a specific tradition that you follow?
I don't follow a specific tradition. One of the best analogies, if I'm using the word correctly, is I had a friend that described her faith as tossed salad. a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, since I'm Cajun, I describe it as jambalaya. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, or gumbo. I do consider myself a witch, and I do consider myself a pagan. Not necessarily Wiccan. I am influenced by many of their fabulous beliefs and morals that they hold. But I'm not qualm to do something to protect my family at all costs either.
Right.
I do try and take responsibility for everything I do.
Well, see, now that's a whole different podcast, because the and it harm none is not necessarily, because you can't live your life and not hurt anybody. But the thing is to cause the least amount of harm. And if somebody's coming at you with a knife and you punch them in the nose, that's causing the least amount of harm. You know, if somebody's trying to hurt your family and you defend yourself, that's the least amount of harm.
Right.
So that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. I've never really classified myself as Wiccan. Other people have called me Wiccan, but I don't necessarily label myself with that title. I'll settle for witch. I'll settle for pagan. That's what I'm more comfortable with.
Okay. Yeah, I think that kind of falls. I'm a witch.
Well, I wouldn't consider myself a fluffy bunny Wiccan, but again, there's a lot of Wiccan beliefs that I like, but not to the fluffy bunny part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to be all worried about I'm not doing anything negative, but I've, since, spoke to some people and heard some presentations about, it's okay to protect yourself. And I firmly believe in that too,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definite. That's why we get along so well, because, see, we're all simpatico. Man, I like
right there
that.
on the same page.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to the next topic. Crystal, you're an author. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you published a book.
Yes, I self-published a book. It wasn't written to write a book. For a number of years, I hosted workshops at Convocation, which was then held in Troy, Michigan, based off of my pregnancies, and I also held classes on the feminine mysteries of mystical magic. Many women kept approaching me, asking me what I was doing during my pregnancies, because it was their first pregnancy and they didn't know what to do. So as a supplement to my workshops, I just put a whole bunch of my thoughts and correspondences and self-published. Yeah.
Rituals in there.
Yeah.
How to get pregnant. What to do when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Wow, someone's totally dissected her book.
I can't say I read the whole thing, but I did read some of it. I'm not having children. Okay? I've been there, done that. But I wanted to read at least parts of the book.
Yeah, I know I'm not the greatest writer, but it was specifically just to relay information of my personal experiences. If it helps people, fantastic. If you look at Amazon, you're going to see nothing but negative reviews. That's cool too. Everybody has their opinion. But it was never done to make money or become a big, well-known person. It's just people asked me for the information, and it was the easiest format that I could do.
And her book is available on Amazon. It's available as a Kindle format. And is it still available as a hard copy?
I know I took it off for a while because I wanted to try and fix all the editing. It was not edited at all because I was rushing to do it for Convocation that year that it was published. So I did take it off to try and edit the mistakes and add more information into it, and I'm still working on that right now.
Okay. So no hard copies are available now.
Right.
But you can still download a Kindle version.
I think so.
Well, if you can, I will make sure to post a link in the description box so you can, if you're interested in that. It covers her pregnancy, pregnancies, I should say, and I thought it was very interesting. And again, I plan on not having children, but I think it's good to have. That's kind of a section.
It's coming up as the paperback, so it's the The Kindle I'll have to try and put back on.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why I thought I took the other one off. So.
Okay, so if you're interested in the Kindle format, as of today, as of the 17th of January, 2015, you can't download a Kindle, but you can purchase a copy, and Crystal is going to look into reestablishing that, and again, I will post a link. But I'm really glad that you did do the book, because I feel that it is a section of Wiccan life that you don't get a lot of coverage about. And I can see why, you had people coming up to you and wanting to know what your experiences were like and stuff like that. And I think you're incredibly brave for having done it, and I love you for it.
Thank you.
Well, we love you for many other reasons, too.
Right. It's an added bonus.
So we would like you to talk to our audience about KOTH, if you would. Okay. What is it?
KOTH is Keepers of the Hearth. It is a tradition that my sister, Autumn, and I created that we wanted to try and focus on family celebrating the craft. At the time we were creating it, she still had some minor children in the household, and I was recently married and planning out my family of my own. It was one way that we could share our faith together as sisters. We live in current states. I am originally born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, where our majority of my family still lives in the parish. And Annette is the high priestess of that tradition, and we have a physical temple in Louisiana that she is in charge of and operates for the community there. They host open circles, and for a number of years they were actually having a New Age show as well that was open to the public to come, where people could sell crafts and try and raise money for other charities.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And it's a 501c, 401c, whatever?
501c3 is
recognized.
They are recognized, yes.
Mm-hmm. And y'all have your own mystery school.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
We do teach.
Mm-hmm.
Annette, which is my sister, Autumn, is her craft name. She is the person that is in charge of the temple, so anyone that is interested in learning would be able to contact her through our website, which is www.keepersofthehearth.com. And there are links to be able to contact both her and myself on our webpage.
Mm-hmm. And I'll put a link to the Keepers of the Hearth webpage in the description bar. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, it is, as I understand it, because our coven, the Mystics of Ria Lure, is under the umbrella of the Keepers of the Hearth. So yes. Our coven is a member, or what's looked at as a family coven.
Yes.
Because Keepers of the Hearth is, its original intent was for family, quote-unquote, covens.
Yes.
But you don't have to necessarily be a member of a family.
Correct. It can be a coven. The physical coven of Keepers of the Hearth are not blood members. They are...
It's a coven.
It's an actual coven.
Right.
Yes.
Of people, of like-minded people who have come together.
Yes.
And isn't there, there's even some single, solitary practitioners,
yes,
right, that are members of
yes.
Keepers of the Hearth.
Yes.
So it's a very, open organization, and it's very supportive. I know Autumn almost as well as I know, Crystal, and she's a fantastic lady. And I know a lot of, I won't go into, who's members, right, but I know, various members. And Kathy and I actually each hold a second degree.
Yes.
Through their mystery school. And one day I'll jump into that third, and I'm gonna finish it. Let me finish Christopher's, and then I'm gonna come back, because I think your third degree actually has some really important information that I need to learn.
Yeah, we try and go more on the counseling aspect and the mentoring aspect opposed to magical.
Right.
Really understanding the people around you, the people that you're leading to be our future generations.
Right. And I like that. I just gotta get my head in that game, and I can't do 2 games at once.
Yep.
So
right now, we are going into our 14th year
of existence. Wow,
Yeah.
has it been that long?
Yeah, we started in 2001 is when we created it.
Wow. Time has flown.
Yeah.
Well, how long have we known each other?
We've known each other since 1997.
Right.
Holy Toledo.
Right.
We've known each other almost 20 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow. Wait, how long have you and I known each other, Kathy?
96.
Wow. I'm fascinated because I haven't really talked about this, but in the Asian zodiac, I'm born in 1972, so I'm a year of the rat. And so, one big thing about the year of the rat is that you never make lasting friendships. And so, yeah, well, I must have grown out of that because I know that, I don't keep in contact with a lot of people from high school. There's only a few people. My best friend from high school, she lives in Chicago. I know her. I keep in contact with her. But, like, friends from college, old jobs, I kind of don't necessarily do the best job of keeping up with them. But y'all...
We've been persistent.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason I know that we've been knowing each other that long is because I can remember going to Raven Mist circles with you guys.
Right.
Because Raven Mist was the first group I started circling with when I moved to Michigan.
Yeah,
right.
Waylon Raven took me under their wings and treated me like a little sister.
Right. Now,
I love you to death by chance you listening to
right,
this.
exactly. Is that group in existence anymore?
They're still around.
Are they still around in the Flint area?
I think they're practicing, but not holding many open circles anymore.
I see. Yeah, I remember having some really great rituals because we went to Samhain
I remember that.
once, and that was really interesting.
Yeah, but you still see members at Convocation.
You'll have to point them out to me.
Yeah, I will off.
Next month. Next month is
Which
Convocation.
is a good segue to say that we'll be at Convocation.
Yes.
Dearborn.
In Dearborn, Michigan.
In February.
February 19th through the 23rd or something like that. 19, 20, 21, 22. Through the 19th through the 22nd, I believe, is the Convocation weekend. Oh, goodness. It is life-changing. Kathy went to that a couple of times before I did. And I was just like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yep.
But
we went the first time together.
Right.
I was pregnant with Lance.
Right.
And I have not skipped since.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
How old is Lance?
He is 10 years old.
Yeah.
Wow, so we've been going 11 years?
Yeah.
Well.
Be 11 years April Fools.
Yeah.
Wow.
April Fool's Day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's if you live in the Michigan area
Or surrounding states.
right, it is a wonderful weekend. Classes taught throughout, and Crystal is actually presented there.
I presented for about 5 years in a row, and then I got sick, so I prefer not to commit myself to something not knowing how I feel.
Right. But it starts on a Thursday afternoon. You go all day Friday, all day Saturday, and half the day on Sunday with classes. And there's like national recognized authors that the MEC, which is the organization that puts on Convocation, they bring in. This year, Michelle
Corbin Arthen, Kirk Cahulan, Dorothy Morrison,
Dorothy
one of
Morrison.
our favorite people in the world.
Yes.
I can't wait to see you, Dorothy, and maybe we'll get an interview with her. Who knows?
Diana Paxson will be there. M.R. Sellers, who is Dorothy's partner in crime, so to speak.
Right.
Attending their things, always interesting. Mother Moon will be there.
Ellen Dugan.
Ellen Dugan is
will
coming
be
back.
there.
Jackie Smith.
Jackie Smith, who is a local business owner. I've mentioned her numerous times in my blog posts.
Jason
Her candles.
Mankey.
Oh,
Jason
he's
Mankey
coming
will be back.
And he's becoming more prominent in the pagan community. I see him a lot on
Yeah.
other blogs.
And of course, Michelle Belanger will be there.
Yes.
Michelle, we love you.
Yeah, Ken Day.
Maybe we'll get an interview with her too. Who knows?
Yeah, Lady Dame.
Lady Dame is hilarious.
She's fun.
Andre Vitamus.
He's been there for years.
Eli Shiva
Mm-hmm.
is someone new that I haven't.
I'm interested to check her out.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are just some of the more wider known. Michelle Belanger is a very well known author in the New Age community, along with Ellen Dugan. And there's local presenters too.
Oh yeah, you're probably looking at over 300 presenters,
Right.
because they'll have several rooms of workshops going on simultaneously.
Right. It's a very big event.
Yes.
It's wonderful. Like I said, if you can come to it, I highly recommend it. If you get early pre-registration, it's like $75, I think, for the weekend. I'll post a link for that too, so you can go check that out. They recently posted the class list, so that should prove to be amazing. So we're pretty much close to our time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this puppy up.
Woohoo!
Crystal, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Not a problem. You know I'd do anything for you guys.
Oh, we love you so much.
I love you too.
All right, Kathy, any parting words of wisdom?
Well, yes, I would like to say that it was divine intervention that we met Crystal. It was meant to happen, and she has been a wonderful part of our life ever since, and we are so happy that you are our friend and sister.
Yeah, it's definitely a rule of 3 that you and I were supposed to meet.
Yes, I agree.
We know 3 different people in our lives that could have introduced us.
And tried to.
And tried to introduce us, and yet we met on the internet.
Right. It's crazy.
Brilliant.
What's meant to be will meant to be.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, well, thank you again for tuning in to this episode of the Heart of the Witch's Path podcast. Again, I am Helen.
I am Kathy.
And thank you so much for taking the time to walk a little on this path with us. We love you, and blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.